The tabletop takeaway.
Game mechanics on display.
Three designers share the stage.
Pick a genre and we'll play.
The tabletop takeaway.
Welcome back to the Tabletop Takeaway. I am Trevor Muller-Hagel.
I'm Ananda.
And I'm Charlie McCarran.
And today we're continuing our couch co-op series, which are video games, with PlateUp. PlateUp is basically a game where you and the other players manage a restaurant. And you perform the various duties by being the server or the cook. Or you can kind of, switch it up if you want and just run around like crazy. But ultimately, your goal is to serve customers the food that they want, and you have food that they know you have, so you don't have to worry about, crazy, we don't have that food in stock. You will have the food. It's more about timing and making sure the customers are happy. Ultimately, you're playing over a series of rounds, and after each round, you get to improve your restaurant with various upgrades. You use money you earned from the customers during the day. And then you can just you can upgrade like your counters, your ovens. You can even unlock new recipes every so often. So when you have new recipes, that means you have more things you have to do to prepare the food. And it can kind of just get a little bit hectic. As you get further along as well, you can get more groups that are coming to your restaurant in the day. Each group can have more people. So you can get pretty crowded in your little restaurant. I think that covers the main nuts and bolts of the game. The fun part for me is that we tend to all stick to a role for the entire time, just because you get used to okay, I want to change the layout of the dining room. I'm the server, so I know best what I need to do for that, especially to accommodate these groups that are coming in. And then you can have someone who's not really like a flex position that's maybe helping with the cooking or maybe helping with the serving or a little bit of both. And then they can help, do more of the maybe taking out the trash, cleaning up messes, or the server can clean up messes. You have all these different little things and obstacles entering into your system.
Yeah. Well, obviously a lot of comparisons to Overcooked if you have played that. But it has a different feel, especially because of the communal upgrade. You're just working on your one restaurant layout versus going to all these crazy different places.
You're not jumping around. There's no lava.
I actually compare it more to Unrailed than to Overcooked.
Yeah.
And I feel like I remember at some point reading something about the devs being inspired by Unrailed. I might be wrong on that, but I feel like I read that somewhere. But one of the things about it is, much like Unrailed, you're trying to avoid a loss condition,
right.
And it is also quite a harsh loss condition. So, in Unrailed, if the train reaches the end of the tracks, you lose. In PlateUp, if a single customer runs out of patience, you lose. Even just one customer.
One customer.
The patience mechanic is basically each customer has a little clock above their head that's ticking down until you lose. And when you satisfy whatever it is they want, they switch to a different clock. So first they come and stand in line outside your restaurant until there's a table open. So you have to make sure a table opens up before they run out outside the restaurant. Then they come in and sit down and wait for you to come and take their order. And the clock is ticking down. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to come and take their order immediately.
Right.
You can wait a bit, which is often the strategic thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all tied to this one patience mechanic. So it's very, very intuitive once you understand that mechanic that, okay, they have a need. I need to fill it before their patience runs out, or we lose.
We just lose. We don't get a bad rating. We get a 0.
They don't pay us less money or no money. Nope. You
just instantly lose the whole game.
Yeah.
It is interesting thinking about those really harsh endpoints, and it reminds me of old school Mario. You just fall off the map.
Restart the level.
You got to restart. And
now you got to restart the whole game because you ran out of lives.
Yeah, because there wasn't a save feature in this particular game for some reason. Yeah.
Well, save features.
I think it draws from the roguelike genre.
Oh, for sure.
From permadeath.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the main reason behind those very harsh loss conditions.
Do you unlock other things as you play?
In PlateUp?
In PlateUp, yeah.
Do you mean like on a meta level?
On a meta level, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's something I didn't get to interact with a lot. So that would be a really good reason to have those harsh mechanics, because then you get really good at following those patients and or strategizing what you offer. Because we were able to offer a new appetizer item basically,
right?
And that created another patience clock for us.
Yes, which was initially good,
Yep.
but then later was very very bad because so the nice thing about the appetizer. Is it delays the people a bit longer. Our appetizer was like oranges.
Yeah,
so the
Mandarin
people,
oranges.
they order oranges initially, and so the oranges are easy to prepare. So you can bring them those, and that gives you more time, which was great early on. And then later we had a situation where we didn't have enough tables for everyone.
Enough 4-person tables specifically, yeah.
Yes, we had a 3-person table, but there was a party of 4 waiting outside the restaurant. And so suddenly the appetizers, which had previously been great, were just absolutely deadly for us because we could not clear a table fast enough because they wanted their oranges first, and then after that we were serving pies. I think,
meat pies and
our
salads.
Restaurant made no sense, but yeah,
Oranges, meat pies, and salads. I mean, it's great.
So that was what doomed us.
yeah.
But it was kind of cool because
we also Icarused it ourselves by calling in all the people.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yep.
You can accept phone reservations.
Yeah, the booking desk.
Yep.
It gives you extra money, but it makes the day go by faster. And
so you force everyone to show up all at the same time.
Right. Which was fine when we had enough tables because we had so much time because of the appetizers. But when we didn't have enough tables, it was a very bad idea.
Yeah. So one thing, thinking about how these new challenges are introduced in this game, really is awesome. Now we got a new dish to serve, and it'd be cool to see this more in board games too, where a different puzzle is introduced, even
Sure.
not just it ramps up the difficulty by something, but
you now have to do more of the meat pies.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of co-op games that do that kind of thing, I'm sure, but I don't know.
The difference in kind.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said there.
Well, I think that also is sort of leading to my takeaway, which is one of the really cool things about the way that difficulty works in PlateUp is that it's framed as an upgrade to your restaurant, right? Okay, so I have this restaurant that only serves meat pies, and guess what? We're also going to serve salads now. So that's great. We get more stuff, right? Our menu's bigger. Now we have this bucket of salad ingredients as well. We're getting more stuff, but it's actually making the difficulty harder. But it's framed as an upgrade to the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is, I guess, a little bit like my takeaway for Unrailed with, framing the antagonist as also a good thing.
Yeah.
This is framing a difficulty spike as a good thing because you're getting more stuff.
Right. You do make more money as well, typically. I'm not sure about... I'd be curious to analyze it a little bit more between, if you have 2 different dishes and now, one is cheaper than the other... Do you actually lose revenue for the day, or do you have more people coming in?
Well, I think it also depends on what upgrades you take.
Yeah.
Because different dishes cost different amounts.
Absolutely, yeah.
But,
yeah, I think, that's making me think about, challenges in video games. Usually is you get to a new area, which is a new level, new things to explore, and there's always a new challenge with it. But the fun of the exploration is outweighs the I have to do this thing now.
Yeah.
Well, that actually reminds me, Spelunky 2 is amazingly good at that. And the people love new content. New content is always a reward, even if it makes things harder. And Spelunky, I'm not going to spoil any of the secrets of Spelunky 2, but Spelunky 2 is just riddled with these secrets that many of them, in order to access a hidden level, you have to give up something that was making things easier for you, or you have to take a big risk. And the hidden levels are extremely dangerous, but Yeah, I think having challenges be different in kind, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's harder in board games to do that, is because like in video games, anything could be under the hood, a secret.
Right.
In board games, it's like, okay, if a new mechanic gets introduced, you have to read about it in the rules.
Right.
You have, I won't go too far into Kingdom Death Monster, but that game kind of drives me nuts that every card you draw is like a paragraph of rules to figure out how the boss moves this round. And like people love that because it is a new challenge.
And it's dynamic
but it's just not as smooth as in video games where you just get to explore naturally.
If you've played Charterstone.
Oh, Charterstone's good.
Charterstone, like, you actually add the rule to the rule book, which I think is a fun little quirk to it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a lot of little like discovery, like, oh, now we have this thing. How does that work? Doop.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. Just discovering the game as you play it.
Yeah.
Is really cool. But like
someday Legacy.
Legacy.
We're talking about trying to do that.
If we wanted to play through an entire Legacy for 3 different games, let us know what that would be. That isn't 45 up to 100 games long. But yeah, so one element I really like, and which actually I'm going to use for my takeaway for this one, I'm doing a little premature for me. I really love that you can intentionally increase the difficulty on yourself in order to improve your upgrades. So like you have 2 things that can do that. You have the booking desk and then the research table. So the research table you can start out at the beginning of the day and research whatever's in the filing cabinet, meaning that you upgrade a component that you did have as an available upgrade in the previous round. So being able to kind of create that, it's like, ooh, what did we get? You have this excitement around it. And then also like, well, we didn't like that. Let's upgrade it again and see what we get this time. You have this like almost revolving door of upgrade. And it stays within the type of component it is. So if it's a counter, it'll always be a counter, but it'll have a unique little feature to it. Which I think is a really cool system.
And then that leads into like, okay, in this round we have this new thing to work with. Let's rearrange. I love that you can rearrange the entire restaurant. You could totally rearrange your kitchen and tables. And then, that's really fun to talk that out. Like we've talked about in these past 2 episodes, the upgrade phase where you get to like talk as a group and
hang out, talk, figure it out, and not be like pressed by time pressure at all.
Right. Remove the time pressure for that phase.
Yeah. But you then have the time pressure if you want to upgrade that, if you want to, book it, use the booking desk to get as many people in as fast as possible, so you can get that big upfront chunk of change. But then you're going to be making it more difficult as you are using your time resource for various things, or losing it.
Yeah, this game feels like it's tapping into the natural human love of setting up some plan and then seeing how it plays out.
Yeah.
And in this case, like, how can you best use your plan as a group?
Yeah.
And see if it works or not. Yeah. I think my takeaway is just thinking about, like, a lot of games we try to simulate real life things. And I thought about this as you were talking about taking the trash out. It's like, why is that something we want to simulate? But it's just sort of fun you're living out this fantasy of like, what would it be like if we owned a restaurant? I can't do that myself, or I could, but I don't think you don't want to do that.
Maybe not risk that financial, paying just for PlateUp is probably enough of the financial risk you'd want to do.
Yep.
But
so I don't know what the lesson is in this, but just the idea that, like people enjoy simulations of even real life things,
even mundane things.
And board games can be good at that, but they can also sometimes it's a disconnect between the mechanics but whereas video games, it feels slightly easier to do some of these simulations.
I think there is, like, between a board game or a tabletop game and a video game, you can have simpler actions because the action of controlling the character is already an action.
Yeah.
And so, like, in a tabletop game, you don't have that initial, like, I can control this thing. You have a hand of cards.
Yeah.
Or you have a tableau.
There's
or
a certain level
piece.
of abstraction in the way.
Right. Right. And so when you're doing a literal thing, that also engages you to be a little bit more like, you can move up, down, left, right. You know, that's not a huge, complex thing. But if you can dash, if you can suddenly move a lot faster, if you can jump, then that suddenly changes that dynamic already. And then if you're doing other things on top of that, then you have enough to bite into. But a tabletop game, maybe that's not enough to actually feel.
Well, here's
compelling.
a question for you both. What do you think is the best simulation of in a game, like a board game?
In a board
Board
game.
game.
Yeah, the best simulation of something.
Best simulation.
I'll start.
Of something mundane or
anything.
Of
but
anything.
I think mine that I always think about is Survive. Because you're starting out on an island and moving across boats to try to get off this sinking island, but there's sharks and creatures that will whales destroy your boat, and then sharks eat you, kind of thing. And for some reason, the mechanics just feel like, oh, this is super natural.
This is very natural.
Very natural. Yeah, where you get on the boat with 3 people, and like there's 2 people. If you have the majority, you can control where the boat goes. It's just like all these little things that are just intuitive, and I don't know, feels like the pressure.
Well, I'm realizing I need to play more simulation board games. I'm trying to think of a favorite.
For simulation specifically, yeah, that is tricky.
Okay, it's not what you're thinking, and it is more fantastic. But Marvel Champions, which we've done an episode on, I think simulates the co-op superhero experience really well, and having the interactions between the heroes and the board and the villain, well, not the board, but the playing space.
Yeah. And that one I remember liking the idea that you have your alter ego.
You have your
you
alter
have to switch
ego,
between,
so you have to rest every now and then. But if you're in an alter ego, then the villain can plan more. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think I would probably say Mage Wars. I think Mage Wars does a very good job of simulating magical combat.
You'll notice these are episodes we've already done, and that's because we really like these games.
Yeah, if we're looking at it from simulation specifically,
Yeah.
I think I would say Mage Wars.
But that is a cool thing too with games, video and board and tabletop, is that you can create a game that does. You're simulating a simple action, right? You're simulating taking out the trash, but you can add fantastic elements to it too. And so, like, what? No, I'm already losing the thing. But in Galaxy Trucker, got it. There we are.
Yep.
You are simulating building this junker of a spaceship really fast, just to like, okay, well, I think this will work. I think that'll work. Okay, then this will power that. Okay, yep.
That's my number 2 example.
Okay.
Always. Yeah.
But yeah, it does, and it's a whole goofy time, right? But like, it's also, you're just carrying cargo pretty much, and like maybe doing some missions, but like the meta is not very interesting. It's what happens on your journey, what happens, and that's all fantastic and crazy and funky, and splitting your ship in half due to a bomb from a guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I thinking about just a little more on the simulation thing, I oftentimes as a designer, I'll hear the feedback or think about like, oh, the theme this is whatever, and people say, oh, it didn't really feel like I'm doing this.
Right.
Like most recent one was like, it didn't really, I'm trying to have like peasants rebelling against the castle, and it didn't really feel like that.
Sure.
And so that's the ultimate goal, I feel like, is to figure out what the mechanics are actually feels like the theme. And it might be in a very different way than you think.
Right.
Like the mechanics you think would feel like this don't at all. And then like some other random piece is like, oh yeah, that really felt like what we were doing.
Yeah. And honestly, like PlateUp does hit that so perfectly, because when I was the cook in the kitchen, I felt like the cook in the kitchen. Like, I wasn't actually chopping vegetables. My character was waving their arms over a counter as it was suddenly completed. You know, I wasn't rolling out the dough. He just waving his arms. Like,
I love that animation.
it's so funny. But like, and that's the thing is, it's fantastic, right? You know, it's not set to reality, but you still feel like you're in the role. You still feel like that simulation is real. Air quotes. Yeah. But
well, good job bringing it all the way back, Trevor.
I realized, oh man, we gotta get this back into.
Yeah, we went off on some tangents in this series, but
it's also prone to tangents because we want to compare it to board games with video games and how they kind of support each other. And I think tangents are good for these three especially.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're excited to give this talk at 2DCon, and listen in. We're going to talk more about couch co-ops and what people can learn from video game design versus board game design, and
hopefully we have some video game designers in our audience there, and we can talk to them about design in general and see what genius we all come up with. Maybe we'll design a new game over there again too, and
we'll see.
Add another one to the plate.
Sounds
we'll
great.
Plate it up.
All about the good jokes.
Got to bring it back around.
Yep. All right. Till next time.
Hey, thanks for listening to The Tabletop Takeaway. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. So please tell your friends and visit our website at thetabletoptakeaway.com, where you can suggest games and mechanics for us to cover next on the show.